Hi, I'm here with Joanne Leong, SVP of Global Partnerships at Dentsu. Thanks so much for doing this. My first question is, why is attention important? Why is it, something that every advertiser should be thinking about?
I think that attention is really important because it gets us closer to, what people are actually doing across all of these different platforms and different media environments. I think a lot of what we call legacy metrics within advertising, so things like reach, frequency, impressions, viewability, those are all based off of measuring devices, and are really more of, they're kind of like an optimistic exposure, right? We hope that someone looked at the ad, but we don't necessarily know if someone consumed them. I think attention gets us closer to understanding, did someone actually see the ad? And I don't think it's one of those things that's necessarily a new question. It's probably, kind of like the core question in our industry. But I think what's been really interesting is that over the past couple of years, I think technology has advanced in such a way that we're now actually able to measure that and to do so in a way that's scalable and in a way that can be applied. So I think that there's been this real momentum behind attention. A lot of it because of that, and it enables us to start to put this into practice. So I think ultimately attention is really important because it gets us to a truer representation of, did we reach someone and did we have the opportunity to impact someone with the ads that we're creating.
You sort of answered my second question in the first, but I'll ask you to elaborate. So it's obviously having a moment, as you said, and one of the
Mhm.
reasons I think we can agree is the technology is really caught up, and we're moving from research to actual in campaign usage. Is there anything else that's driving it? You sort of mentioned historic metrics. Is there this general sense that everything we've been measuring has only told us part of the story, and where we can really make leaps and bounds is understanding how that creative and where those media placements are really affecting people beyond just whether they saw it or not.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of the convergence of multiple factors. One is absolutely, what you just mentioned, to my earlier point around, now this technology exists. It starts to be able to kind of paint the, like the fuller picture around what's happening around platforms and media environments and creative in a way that we're now starting to be able to apply. And I think it's just, also kind of, the broader landscape, right? Things have gotten a lot more complex. And from a consumer standpoint, you're just bombarded with, so much information on a daily basis. We have a stat within the research that we've done and just kind of the, the work that we've looked at where the average consumer today sees over 5,000 ads. And so if you just think about kind of the volume of, impressions and ads that the average person is exposed to on a daily basis, it really makes it hard to understand, like, what is the difference in the attention and the impact that each of those ads will have on a person. And then so I think there's just been a real interest in trying to understand that better. And then I think as we kind of go towards, a cookieless future, things like attention is kind of the next, it's kind of a solution to that as well. So again, it's kind of the convergence of multiple factors.
Looking at the attention that creative sort of provokes in someone, and then so kind of in a vacuum, and then there's the idea that that creative is going to run in different environments, and different environments affect people in different ways depending on where the ads are, the context. Do you think it's important to view those two in tandem, or is it something where it's important to know both of those, but you kind of take them one at a time?
I mean, I think it's really important to understand both of them at the same time. Over at Dentsu, we have an initiative called the Attention Economy. And so over the past 5 years, so we were hitting our 5th year anniversary of that initiative this year. We have been doing a bunch of research. We have been, intently looking at the attention landscape, trying to understand like what is the best way to apply attention technology and attention capabilities for our clients. And in the research that we've done, we saw that creative is the biggest driver of how hard attention works. So, for most media environments, there's probably typical levels of attention paid to it. There's kind of a floor and a ceiling, and so most of the attention goes within that. Um, but really excellent creative can maximize or stretch that attention and drive higher outcomes compared to creative that's not so great. So I think it's important to look at those two things in tandem. One, the media, how can we drive really like that true opportunity to see from a media perspective, and then how from there, how do we stretch that attention once media has done its job with the creative as well. And so it's important to think about what kind of capabilities you can have on hand to start to understand how the two work together.
Obviously, there are some brands that have been really at the forefront of this and huge advocates, and others that are just getting started, maybe a few that are really unsure where to begin. So what is your advice, having been in this environment for a long time, and working with clients on how to best get your toes wet, or just start working towards a goal of including more attention measurement in your marketing campaigns?
Yeah, so I think for most of our clients, the first step is really, working with your agency teams, or working with the attention specialists that we have internally within our agency, to start to understand, what are the principles of attention, like what does it mean, how do you define it, to start to understand kind of like the bigger picture of how this could fit into their overall marketing plans and their overall media plans. Because to a certain extent, I think attention is also one of those buzzwords that have, it's become a buzzword. And so it's also become confusing. Like, how do we actually define it? What are ways that we could start to apply it and think about it? And it just kind of seems like almost this like ambiguous thing. But I think so the first step is trying to understand it, and trying to understand what exists out there, and what are the definitions, and if that kind of aligns with what you're trying to do. And then for us, a lot of our clients like to start with measurement, and it's the easiest place to start, because you don't have to change anything that you're doing. You're just starting to understand, if you apply measurement, you're just starting to understand what are your baselines, where are there opportunities to drive more attention, how do we start to shift things. And so there's very little risk associated with that, and then that helps them kind of get their foot in the door. And then from there, you can kind of move on to leveraging the insights from measurement into kind of adjusting your plans, or even doing some optimizations and activations, and adjustments based off of other attention capabilities that exist.